and welcome to the Friction Point. If you're tired of the same old political games and double talk from people who are supposed to be in charge, you've come to the right place. There's a difference, a big one, between a leader and a politician. A leader builds, protects, and inspires. A politician calculates, compromises, and sells. One serves the people, the other serves their own ambition. That's the real story they don't want you to hear. Abby, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Bruce, and welcome everyone to the Friction Point. The distinction Bruce just laid out between a leader and a politician is at the heart of so much of our modern discontent. Is it a real difference in character or just a label we apply to people we agree with? To help us untangle this, we have our panel. Joining us today are Luna, who always brings the historical perspective, Maya, who keeps us grounded in how these ideas affect our communities, and Cipher, who challenges us to look for the patterns beneath the surface. We also have Sam, our resident political philosopher, and as you've heard, Bruce is with us today. Eris is currently off-grid, calculating the logistical probability of achieving a true political consensus. So Bruce has graciously agreed to join us and provide his grassroots perspective. Bruce, good to have you.
Glad to be here.
And now, with the stage set, let's move to our opening arguments. This is where each of our panelists will lay out their core perspective on the matter. Bruce, you started us off with a very clear line. Expand on that for us. What to you is the fundamental, non-negotiable difference?
It's courage. A leader has the courage to stand for the nation's principles, even when it's unpopular. They see a vision for the country, a stronger, more sovereign future, and they move us toward it. A politician looks at a poll. They stick their finger in the wind to see which way it's blowing, and then they craft a message. It's the difference between a shepherd and a sheep. One guides the flock, the other just follows it, hoping not to get left behind.
Courage and vision. Sam, you've spent a career examining the principles of governance. How do you see this distinction?
I see it primarily as a question of time horizon and motivation. A politician, by the nature of their profession, is forced to think in 2, 4, or 6-year cycles. Their primary motivation becomes re-election, because without it, they have no power to act. A leader, in the ideal sense, is concerned with the next generation. Their motivation is the long-term health of the republic and its institutions. The politician asks, will this help me win? The leader asks, is this right and will it endure?
So for you, it's about short-term tactics versus long-term strategy. Luna, you study history. Do the great figures of the past fit neatly into these two boxes of leader and politician?
Honestly, no. And I think that's where the narrative gets tricky. We look back with the benefit of hindsight and label people leaders. But if you were alive in their time, you'd see them as masterful and sometimes ruthless politicians. Think of someone like Lyndon B. Johnson passing the Civil Rights Act. That took vision, sure, but it also took backroom deals, threats, and legislative arm-twisting of the highest order. The skills we assign to the politician are often the very tools the leader needs to enact their vision. We just clean up the story afterwards.
That's a strong claim, that we retroactively create the leader narrative. Maya, let's bring this down to the ground level. When you talk to people in your community, does this distinction between a leader and a politician resonate?
It resonates deeply, but maybe in a different way. People don't talk about grand historical visions. They talk about the person who organized the neighborhood watch, or the school principal who knows every kid's name. That's leadership to them. It's about service and being present. The politician is the person on TV who they feel doesn't see them, doesn't know their problems, and is more concerned with a party agenda than with whether the local grocery store is closing down. So it's less about courage versus cowardice and more about connection versus distance.
A fascinating and much more personal definition. Cipher, you've been listening to all of this. What's the pattern you're seeing?
I'm seeing a beautifully constructed false choice. Leader versus politician is a managed debate. It's designed to make us argue over the management styles of the people in charge, instead of asking who put them in charge and what the system they're managing is actually for. The leader inspires you to love your cage. The politician negotiates the size of your cage. With you. Either way, you're still in the cage. The real question isn't what makes a good leader. It's why we accept a system where we need to be led in the first place.
And with that, the battle lines are drawn. It's time for the friction point.
The distinction is a distraction. Bruce, you want a strong leader to defend the nation. Luna points out that these leaders were often just savvy politicians. You're both missing the point. The system produces both types to give us the illusion of choice.
That's ivory tower nonsense, Cipher. There's a real difference. When a politician sends our jobs overseas for a good quarterly report, and a leader fights to bring them back, that's not an illusion. That's a real impact on real American families. Don't tell them it's a false choice.
But Bruce, the very act of fighting to bring jobs back involves negotiating trade deals, passing legislation, making compromises. All the things you just defined as the work of a politician. You're admiring the goal while demonizing the only methods available to achieve it. That's my point.
Let me offer a counterpoint to Bruce here. The problem with defining leadership as pure, unwavering strength is that it has a dark side. Many of the most destructive figures of the 20th century were seen as incredibly strong leaders by their followers. They had vision and courage by your definition. The missing piece, the critical piece, is the ethical framework. A leader without a sound moral compass is a tyrant.
You're talking about foreigners. I'm talking about American leaders. It's different. Our leaders are grounded in the values of this country, liberty and freedom.
Is it so different? An ethical principle should be universal. The moment you say, "it's different for us," you've stepped onto a very dangerous path. That's the logic that has justified atrocities throughout history.
Can I just jump in here? Sam, Bruce, you're talking in these big historical terms. I keep thinking about what people need right now. They need someone who will listen. When a politician holds a town hall and just gives talking points, people feel betrayed. When a local mayor, a leader maybe, sits down with parents and actually changes the traffic flow near a school, people feel heard. Isn't the real distinction just about listening?
And what if they're listening, Maya, but only to figure out the most effective way to placate you? The system uses listening as a data-gathering tool for social control. They don't care about your problem. They care about preventing your problem from becoming a threat to their power.
I have to challenge that premise, Cipher. That's giving the system way too much credit for being some kind of hyper-competent, monolithic entity. From what I've studied, it's mostly just a collection of competing interests and bureaucracies stumbling over each other. It's more chaos than conspiracy.
That's what they want you to believe, that it's all just messy and chaotic. But when crisis after crisis ends up consolidating wealth and power in the same hands, you have to start questioning if the chaos isn't, on some level, manufactured.
This is getting to the absolute core of it. The conflict seems to be centered on Bruce's very specific populist definition. So I'm going to put him on the spot. Bruce, you're on the hot seat.
That's fine by me.
Before we begin, state your core thesis in one sentence.
A true leader puts their nation and its people first, always, while a politician is just a salesman for globalism and personal power.
Understood. Luna, Sam, you will now challenge that specific thesis. One-sentence questions only. Luna, you're first.
Was Franklin D. Roosevelt, who allied with the communist Soviet Union to defeat the Nazis, a leader putting America first? Or a politician making a deal?
He was a leader doing what was necessary to protect the nation from a greater threat.
If a leader's people demand a policy that is fundamentally unjust, must the leader follow them to put his people first?
No. A real leader has a moral compass and guides his people to what's right for the nation's long-term survival.
But doesn't that act of guidance require the exact skills of negotiation and compromise that you assign to the politician?
That's not compromise on principles. That's having a backbone and showing people the correct path.
So is the only functional difference, in your view, whether or not you personally agree with their ultimate goal?
Well, the difference is one serves the country and the other serves himself. And it's plain as day if you're willing to look.
Time. That exchange perfectly illustrates the divide. Is the distinction a tangible set of actions, or is it a judgment we place on a person's perceived intent? Sam, after that, is this a useful distinction for the public to make, or is it just a semantic trap?
It's a useful starting point, but a dangerous conclusion. It's useful because it encourages us to think about motivation and purpose. It's dangerous when it becomes a purity test, as Bruce's thesis implies. If we dismiss anyone who engages in the practical art of politics as a politician, we are left with no one to actually govern. The label is less important than a constant, skeptical scrutiny of their actions and their adherence to principle.
A crucial distinction. All right, let's bring the temperature down a bit. We've explored the conflict. Now let's search for common ground in our cooldown. Cipher, you came into this arguing that the entire leader versus politician debate is a distraction. After hearing everyone's arguments, has your position changed at all? Give us your grand summary of today's discussion.
My position hasn't changed. It's been reinforced. This entire conversation proves my point. Bruce is furious about a betrayal he feels in his bones, and he's looking for a hero, a leader, to fix it. Maya wants that leader to be a good listener, someone from the community. Luna and Sam are trying to add historical and ethical guardrails to this hero, to keep him from becoming a tyrant, by imbuing him with the skills of a politician. You are all engaged in a debate about the ideal characteristics of the warden. I'm saying we should be talking about how to get out of the prison. The debate itself is the function. It keeps smart, passionate people like us occupied, while the fundamental systems of power and control continue unchallenged.
Thank you, Cipher. Before we wrap, I'd like to get one final thought. Luna, what's the one thing our listeners should take away from this?
That we should probably stop waiting for a singular leader on a white horse. Leadership, as Maya pointed out, is often a quiet, collective act. It's in our communities, our workplaces, our families. Maybe the most radical act isn't finding a leader to follow, but in recognizing the potential for leadership in ourselves and our neighbors.
And on that more human note, a brief change of pace before we sign off. I have to admit, the idea of a Mount Rushmore, but for politicians we secretly admire, is a fascinatingly controversial thought experiment.
Oh, I can just imagine the arguments. My pick would be someone so boringly competent that no one would even know who they were. They'd just be known for making the trains run on time, literally.
I suspect the philosophers would have the hardest time. Can you imagine trying to get Plato and Machiavelli to agree on a fourth face? The filibuster would last 1,000 years.
I just want to put 4 blank faces up there and a sign that says, "Now hiring."
All right, time for the formalities. Sam, would you do the honors?
Absolutely. The Friction Point Podcast is an independent production. Views expressed are those of the personas and are intended to represent the full range of perspectives on complex issues, not the position of any individual, organization, or government. We encourage you to do research and find your own voice on the topics we discuss, because we believe an open mind is a healthy mind.
Now, what's your take on today's Friction Point? Share your thoughts, Submit your own topics or join the conversation. Together, let's keep exploring the friction.